Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dreams Unlimited Travel Podcast. My name is John Magi.
And I'm Kevin Close.
And in this episode, we're going to tell you about a recent experience on the Disney Treasure, specifically from the standpoint of just how handicapped accessible this boat is. Just to set the stage, we were invited on a preview cruise on the Treasure. It was a 3-night sailing. We had a chance to get a sort of taste of the ship. We were invited along with other travel agents and some media, so it wasn't a full sailing, but we feel like we got a good experience from the ship. On our other channels, it is Unlimited, Dreams Unlimited Travel, DCL Fan. Hopefully you've seen some of our other shows where different team members have had a chance to talk about their experience, but we want to do a very specific look at this cruise, strictly from someone who has special needs and requires handicapped accessibility.
That's me.
So for those of you who don't know, who haven't been watching and following us for a while or new to the channel, Kevin rides full-time in a scooter now. This is his means of transportation, and that's the only way he can get around. So it's really important for him and for me that the places we go and how we visit is handicapped accessible. So we're going to start, hopefully give you a little bit of an overview of everything we experienced and throughout the ship for someone else who might be in a scooter or a wheelchair, and see if we can provide you with some insight of what you might experience. So let's start with just getting on the ship, right? We boarded the ship in Port Canaveral. We've done this many times, that's not new, but getting on the ship, what did you find, Kevin?
It's super easy. There are elevators in the terminal, and the ramps up to the ship were not extremely steep, and it was very easy to get on the ship. There was no issues.
Right. Not a surprise from any other ship. For those of you who know already, the Treasure is the sister ship of the Wish. We had a chance to sail on the Wish as well. So a lot of what we're going to share with you is similar. The Wish and the Treasure will be the same. So now we've get on board. We've had a chance to sort of poke around. Beautiful ship. We've talked about this many times, just how gorgeous this ship is. And then first thing we do is we check out our stateroom. And we check out our stateroom for a couple of reasons. First of all, we did not book this cruise. As I mentioned, we were invited, so Disney gave us a room. We asked for a handicapped accessible room. I wanted to make sure that that was the case. And then also something else we do for a cruise, I'm going to explain more about that at the end, but we wanted to make sure that that had occurred as well. So we head to the stateroom, we go to the elevator, and what's your experience of the elevator on this cruise?
The elevators are narrow but long. The problem is the doors close very quickly. I think they need to be adjusted, but it's
insane how fast they close. You just start to get into the elevator and you get that lady's voice, doors closing, and you think, oh my God, I gotta hurry up and get in this state.
Several times getting on the elevator, because I can't just rush in. What if there are people on the elevator? I have to kind of make sure that it's clear. And several times I was trapped in the door and then the doors reopen. I will also say that the few times that I maneuvered around the ship and I would press the button for the elevator, if the elevator that opened was too far from where I was, the elevator door closed and I missed it.
Yeah, you couldn't get there in time.
You couldn't. It moves very quickly.
Inevitably, it was always the last elevator.
It doesn't matter. You push the button at the front and the last one opens. So you park in the middle and then the one behind you opens. It's behind you. Behind you opens.
And then Kevin mentioned these elevators are really, really narrow, but they're very deep. So a lot of people like that, but it's difficult if you're in a scooter, because one of the things we had to do was we kind of had to talk to the folks on the elevator and getting on the elevator with us. Where were you getting off? Because if they were getting off before us, we wanted to make sure that we were positioned correctly so that they didn't have to move, or we were getting off before them.
Right.
You have to get out and stuff. So there was
and make it as easy on people as possible.
Yeah, a little bit of negotiation trying to get done.
I agree.
You didn't have to do it. I did it every time we were on the elevator, but something, that's difficult on most sailings and in most places is that the buttons for the elevator will always be behind you. And that's difficult in this elevator because you couldn't turn around. It's very difficult. You would never be able to turn around. So the fact that where the buttons are placed are very difficult for someone in a...
I also can't back into the elevator because they go so fast. I would never make it.
Yeah. So for anybody in a mobility device, be aware of that. And if you're traveling with them, make sure you're there to help them with that sort of stuff.
And if there's other people on the elevator, make friends with them.
Yeah. So we've conquered the elevator and we got to our stateroom. Disney graciously gave us a deluxe balcony stateroom, handicapped accessible, great stateroom. It was
very nice.
Very nice, huge. The room was completely appropriate for our needs. The room is big enough to accommodate someone in a mobility device. They could turn around really easy. And the weird thing about this room is there are 2 pillars in the room.
They're structural.
Yeah, they're obviously there because these rooms are a little bit bigger and they need to, hold the ship up. And so that makes a little bit of an awkward situation because you have to kind of go around this pillar to get into the bathroom, and then you have to open the bathroom door. So it was a little bit of an awkward situation. I had the opportunity to peek into the room next to ours, also handicapped accessible, deluxe balcony stateroom, and that one did not have the pillars in it. So something you might want to try to do is go online and see if you can find some videos of similar staterooms to see if it'll work for you.
I don't want to make it sound like it's a huge issue. You can get around it, but it does. I imagine at the end of a 7-night cruise, you'd be tired of those poles. I was only there for 3 nights, so they didn't seem to be as big a burden.
Yeah. Again, I think the biggest thing was...
I also was an invited guest.
Right. But I think the biggest thing with the poles being there was a little bit more maneuvering for you to go to the restroom or to get, into the furthest portion of the stateroom. Other than that, beautiful stateroom, well appointed, everything was great. Nice ramp out to the balcony if you so choose to go out to the balcony. The balconies are kind of narrow, so, I don't think you ever went out because you couldn't get out there and turn around and come back. It was basically a pull out and pull in situation.
Our room was based on Pocahontas.
Yeah, our theme to Pocahontas. Again, beautiful, just perfect and lovely. And I don't know, personally, I don't know if this is because it was a new ship and everything was new, but the beds were extremely comfortable. So I don't know, I'm hoping that that's the case, that they've ordered some different beds, but it was really, really comfortable. All right, so let's now move on to, you tell me, what do you want to talk about next as far as handicapped accessibility?
I would tell you that pretty much every space on the ship is handicapped accessible. We went to the theater a couple of times and saw shows, and I was talking to one of the cast members, and because of where we entered the theater, we were in what I would call the balcony. So we could see the whole stage. I thought it was a really good seat. And she explained to me that there were handicapped entrances and accessibility for every part of the theater. If you want to sit in the front row, you can sit in the front row. It is accessible.
So there are the spots where there's no seat,
right?
So you can pull a wheelchair or a scooter in. What was really nice was the seat next to Kevin had a little reserved apron on it. I don't know what the good word for it was, a reserved sign. And I went in and I said, oh, this is apparently reserved for somebody. She goes, oh no, it's reserved for the companion of the person in the mobility device. Right. So that's nice. So now it's like, okay, I'm going to park you here and now I've got to go find my own spot. The seat's there saved for you.
And I didn't want to make it sound like we were in the cheap seats. We chose this area just for the view of the stage. The new Moana show, you're going to want to be able to see the whole stage. I myself think if you were up too close, you would lose some of the scope.
Yep. We also like sitting up high and in the back, so it worked out perfect for us. Mm-hmm. Again, everything is perfectly handicapped accessible. There are ramps pulling up to these empty spaces that are designed specifically for someone in a mobility device to be able to pull in and comfortably watch the show. So couldn't say better things about that.
I agree.
Let's talk about getting around the ship in general. There are no barriers. It's not like, oh shoot, I can't go this way because there's stairs. Everywhere you go is perfectly accessible to anybody in any kind of motorized device or wheelchair?
One of the things that I found to be a little vexing was the automatic doors. If you're inside the ship and you're going out, you usually have to go through, I joke about it, it's a vapor lock. It's 2 sets of doors, and I'm sure that's there to control the weather. But what happens is the inner door is mechanized. So as you approach it, it opens. But then you get out between the doors and the other door is not mechanized. So you're on your own. You have to open it yourself. I've been on other cruise lines and all of the doors are mechanized, which makes it much easier. Going into the restrooms, the doors are not mobility friendly. You have to open the door, and these doors are heavy. And I'm a strong guy, so I can do it. But I would imagine there are people who are in wheelchairs and scooters who can't. These are heavy metal doors. And I understand that's for the safety of the ship, but it's my opinion that they should have buttons you can push where the door opens for you.
Yeah, it's interesting because not only were there instances where the 2 doors, one was manual and the second one was automatic, but it was different ways of opening the automatic doors. Some of them you drove up on and they opened automatically. Some of them you had to wave your hand in front of a button, and some you had to press a button. So the fact that it wasn't uniform was also a little bit hard to get used to. And as Kevin mentioned, every common bathroom we encountered with handicapped accessibility was difficult for him to get into and out of by himself. Every single one of them. There wasn't one where you could go, where we could say, okay, guess what? Deck 5, midship, make sure you use that restroom because that's easy. Every single one of them, either the handicapped stall or the outer area was very difficult for you to use.
I found them kind of small.
Yeah, very small, I think.
And a great deal of maneuvering to turn around. I believe that anyone that designs a handicapped accessible space should do it in a scooter or a wheelchair. Because if you go into the handicapped accessible stall, there's usually not enough room for you to turn around. But the lock is behind you.
Right.
So it's very difficult to lock the door and still use the facilities.
Usually I do is I hang out outside the door and people go to use it, and inevitably everybody wants to use the handicapped accessible stall, and I have to say, listen, someone's in there, please don't go in. But yeah, this is a weird setup. There's one by the Aqua Mouse that's impossible. It's like a closet.
It is.
It's like, how can you even call this a handicapped accessible bathroom?
I drove into the restroom. John held the handicap door open for me, threw his body across that, but I couldn't come out and turn around and drive straight out of the bathroom. I had to back out, all the way back out onto deck. And I know these are not huge problems, but when I did use a restroom on my own, the door stayed unlocked, and I thought, well, if you open the bathroom door, if I hear you coming, I'm going to try and scare you off. But if you come in and open the door, surprise.
All right. Enough bathroom talk.
Enough bathroom talk.
Beat that horse. I also want to say, while we're recording here, you're going to hear some noises in the background. Our new puppy, we've put her in her kennel because she's kind of
rambunctious,
a lunatic. And she's barking and stuff. So if you hear some crying or some barking, that's just
she's 9 months old. So
puppy. Common areas, pretty much all handicapped accessible. Restrooms are a challenge. Some of the doors are a challenge. Let's talk about the dining spaces.
Okay.
Dining rooms.
The dining rooms are packed. They're very tight. The tables are close together. If you are in a scooter or a wheelchair, you're going to have to make sure that you speak to the person at the front desk that you need to be able to get in to and sit at your table. When our first meal was at 1923, which is a beautiful restaurant. However, and now we were listed as having a handicapped accessible room. They had all of that information over and over and over again. And we got to the restaurant, and the table that we had been assigned was 4 tables back and in the corner. So if I had maneuvered my way in there and anybody else sat in the restaurant, everybody in the restaurant was going to have to get up for me to move. There was no way I could get in there and not annoy other people. So we talked to the head waiter, and we said, is there anything on the aisle? Is there anything where I don't have to? Because we were on a cruise that wasn't very full, so it wasn't a big deal. But if this restaurant had been full, there was no way I could have gotten back there.
So we get in, and there's a great deal of hush whispers to each other, and looking at Kevin's scooter and looking at us, and inevitably they ask several times, well, can you get out of your scooter? No, I can't get out of a scooter. Then finally the waiter came over, and he said, oh, I'll fix that. And he picked up the numbers and did this, bloop, bloop. And it was like to a table that was on the aisle. And we thought, okay, why did it take 6 people to figure that out? He did it.
And a great deal of talking behind their hand.
Exactly, that they didn't know what they were going to do. So, it all worked out well, and he fixed it. But again, I think because we're so aware of it, and it's because we don't want to bother people, that when we get into that situation, it's very difficult. You want to say, listen, ahead of time, there should be some conversation between someone who's handling the booking and on Disney's side, because as a travel agent, we do give that information to Disney Cruise Line, or wherever you're staying. But there should be some internal conversation that says, listen, they're in a handicapped stateroom, let's make sure that they're on an aisle. Let's figure out what we can do to make it easier for them. So that was 1923.
Now, I will say that this was our first night. The other 2 nights, that was never an issue again. It's like we had solved it the first night, and the other 2 nights were just simple and easy, right. And we were seated appropriately.
And for those of you who don't know, with Disney dining, you do rotational dining, you move restaurants, but you keep the same servers, so that and assistant server and head server, so that makes it easier for things like this, right? So they know us now,
right?
And they know our needs. And the first thing they said to us, oh, Mr. Kevin, Mr. John, we have a great seat for you. It's on the aisle. We've removed chairs for.
Now,
Kevin's scooter.
I don't want you to think that they were treating us special.
Right.
They will treat you the same way.
Yeah.
They will learn your name the first night and your wants and needs and your preferences. They're really, really awesome about it. But the first night I just kept looking at the man and saying to him, there's no way I can get back there.
And it was a little awkward.
It was, but then, you also get to the point where you think, I'll just go have pizza or something. Don't worry about it. And then they all get all freaked out. No. So it worked out really well.
Speaking of pizza, there is Marceline Market, which is the buffet, which is an alternative to eating in the restaurants. And then there's also what we do, the sort of fast food locations, which are hot dogs and hamburgers and salads and pizza, and then there's the barbecue place.
And Mexican
food.
With tacos and bowls.
Completely handicapped accessible, yep. Not an issue at all.
The other thing I will tell you is that any of the bars that are on the ship, they will have bar height seats and bar height bars. But there are also seats for people in mobility devices.
So lower counters, so you can pull right up to the counter.
Lower chairs if you're going to transfer into a chair. You don't have to get up onto the higher bar stool.
Agreed. I think one of the most difficult and awkward places for someone in a mobility device is going up to Cove Cafe. We love Cove Cafe. We've mentioned this before on the Wish and the Treasure. It's in a very strange location. We don't understand the design of the adult area. Having said that, we've tried to go up to Cove Cafe. Well, we did go up to Cove Cafe to get a coffee, and it's just very awkward to get into.
It's smaller inside, and there's a great many chairs. So it seemed that no matter where I tried to sit, I was in the way. And that's not a great feeling. You know, if you're in a scooter or a wheelchair, you're always aware that you take up more space. And people are almost always accommodating about it, but you still have that feeling that, oh God, I'm in everybody's way. And that's how I felt in the Cove Cafe. It's very difficult. You have to really want to get there.
As someone who uses a mobility device, part of the issue is you're trying to be independent. You're trying not to be someone who wants people to go out of their way to help you. You want to do as much as you can yourself. And when these situations come up, it's uncomfortable. And that's the last thing anyone wants to feel on a cruise, especially a Disney cruise. I think you want to feel uncomfortable.
There are 2 other coffee bars, more midship. Now, it's not an adult-only area, but there are places, if you wanted to go get coffee, that you don't have to go to the aft of the ship, go up to the adult pool deck, and then maneuver yourself over a couple of ramps to try and get into the Cove Cafe. There's, I think it's the Jade Cricket Cafe, and then I am sure someone's going to correct me, I think it's the Hi Cafe. Mm-hmm. And you know, they have the coffee drinks there. The Cove Cafe is a lovely space. It's very tight for someone in a scooter.
Agreed. Speaking of tight for people on scooters, we got to talk about the lounges. So there's Skipper's Canteen, which is not it's in the middle of the ship. So there's entryway from both.
It's not enclosed.
Right.
It's an open space on both sides.
Right. However, the chairs are very close together.
They are.
Very difficult to maneuver for someone in a scooter. So you need some help with that. There's a Scat Cat Lounge, again, a little bit tight inside.
Which we were in when it was empty.
Yes.
So I didn't experience it being crowded, but if it were crowded, again, he's right. It would be a place where you would feel like you were taking up a lot of room.
And we have to talk about Haunted Mansion. We talked about this quite a bit. Incredible space. Everyone's going to want to enjoy it. I'm going to let you talk about what it's like being in a scooter, trying to get into there and get around there.
I had no trouble getting in, and when it wasn't jam-packed, I had no trouble getting around. I had no trouble turning around and finding a place to sort of back out of the way. We even moved from seat to seat to get a different experience. However, we were in there. Again, we were on an invitation preview cruise, and they had allowed it to become much more crowded than it normally would. And people were trying to take pictures and video, and everybody was standing around having complimentary emotional cocktails. I don't remember what else. There was something else.
Emotional cocktails.
Weren't they that's what they called them. Emotional cocktails. I can't remember what the name of them was. However,
I missed out on those.
Oh no, you didn't. You tried one of them and you looked at me and went, here, take this. It was very, very, very claustrophobic. If you're in a mobility device and they overfill it, it's a little claustrophobic.
Yeah, and not only that, as Kevin mentioned, we had a great opportunity to be in there when there was very few people. And it was open to everyone. This was a time when it was the public, at large could go in. So it wasn't a special occasion. And because of that, Kevin was able to move around and see different things. But when it's crowded, everybody wants to sort of flock to the thing that's happening. So if there's something going on over the bar, or maybe one of the cool things, the special effects are happening on the walls, everybody's flocking to that, and it was impossible for him to see. I'm like, can you see that? And he's like, I can't see anything that's going on.
Now I'm going to step in here with another piece of information. There's a great deal of talk about, oh my God, I'll never get in, I'm never going to get to see it, it's going to ruin my trip. We have clients on the maiden voyage, and they're telling us that because it's open early in the day and until late at night, there's no issue about getting in and actually getting a seat.
I believe I was the one who predicted that it was going to be difficult to get into and that this was going to be a problem. I will gladly say that I am wrong. Not only did Kevin and I get in multiple times, but he said our clients on the Maiden, which is full, and is a 7-night cruise, are saying they're getting in no problem, multiple times, enjoying it, being able to go back. Again, we've mentioned this on other shows, open until 5 o'clock for kids as well. So if you want to bring the kids in, they can experience all the cool special effects, and there are non-alcoholic drinks. 5 and after is adult only.
I'm going to give you a sneak peek. Pay attention to the menu. The menu does things.
Yep.
The other thing I will tell you is that Raleigh Crump was one of the original designers of the Haunted Mansion, and he wanted to make it the Museum of the Weird and Odd. On the fireplace, there is a bust of Raleigh Crump, and it's starting to melt. So when you go in, say hello to Raleigh, and the aquarium, which is pretty much the centerpiece, was his idea. So that is something they did not use in the Haunted Mansion, but you can thank Raleigh Crump for that.
Imagineers went back through much of the sketches that he did for the Museum of the Weird, and were able to reproduce things like the fish tank with the ghost fish and other special effects that are not in the Haunted Mansion now. So really, really cool for those of us who are big history, Walt Disney World history buffs.
Now, I don't want to make it sound like I knew that. I just read this article yesterday.
Oh no, you should have sounded like you knew
I know.
it. I only know the fish tank thing because I was told about it by an Imagineer standing in the room, pointing things out to me. So really cool. All of it's very, very awesome in there. Anything we've missed for handicapped accessibility?
I don't think so. The shows, the bars, the bars are a little tight. The restaurant, just make sure they know that you cannot get into a back corner. I think a lot of times people assume that they can put you out of the way.
Yeah, I think they also assume too that a lot of folks maybe can transfer. So someone can leave their wheelchair at the door and then walk in, but you got to make sure they know that.
Some of us can't.
Yep.
No, I think the ship, first of all, the ship's a masterpiece. It's absolutely stunning. Pay attention to the carpets. We've all said it. If they've said it, I'm sure they've said it on every show.
Every show.
The carpets are spectacular, and I know that's a weird thing to fix on, but they are. And as you move about the ship, you find another one that's even more beautiful than the one outside your stateroom. What else? Getting on, getting off.
Yeah.
Everything was available. I would like them to put buttons on all the doors so they open. I would like them to make the bathrooms a little bigger. I don't know that they're going to go back and retrofit this brand new ship for me, but it's an easy time.
In the beginning of the show, I teased a little bit about something that we do. Then I realized that we've never talked about on any of our shows, and I wanted to share that with you all. And it's something that helps Kevin. Part of
You're going to talk about my business, aren't you?
And we're going to go back to the bathrooms again. No, we're not going to go back to the bathrooms again. Kevin has difficulty sleeping in a flat bed.
My bed here in Florida is in a Craftmatic adjustable bed with a memory foam mattress.
So getting on a ship, all the beds are usual, regular flat beds. There are options where you can ask your stateroom for, the best thing I can come up with is chucks, styrofoam chucks. There's these things that you put on the bed.
Foam wedges
that will make the head incline a little bit and maybe give you a little bump for your knees. Even that isn't something that Kevin can use and sleep comfortably. So what we've come to do for years now, as a matter of fact, is we rent a motorized recliner, a motorized lift recliner, and we have it placed in our stateroom. We do it on all the cruises we go on. Every cruise line we've done, we can't do it on something like Viking or river cruises, but any ocean cruise.
On Viking cruises, you can't bring your own mobility device.
Right. So we did this Disney cruise as we did with the Wish, and we use a company called Scootaround. I just want to make sure everybody knows we do not get any commission from Scootaround, although they do pay commission to travel agents. We've opted not to participate in that because I want to make sure I give you guys a fair assessment of what they provide. They're our go-to company. There are other companies out there that certainly do the same thing, but we find Scootaround to be reliable, give us good product.
More coverage of the United States also.
Yeah, all over the United States. So it's really, and what I think they do is they work with local partners to get it done. Even things like hotel rooms, we've gotten motorized lift chairs. Go to scootaround.com. There's a number you can call. They're going to want to know the specifics of your sailing, your confirmation number, your stateroom number. They're going to want you to verify that your stateroom is fully handicapped accessible. Now, we've stayed in suites where we've had motorized lift chairs, recliners delivered to. They will deliver to a suite, and it has to do with how big the door is for them to get the item in there, and also is there space for the item itself. So scootaround.com, reach out to them. Kevin's, apparently his phone is blowing up.
If you're texting me, stop.
Yes, really. Kevin's phone is blowing up. And really super easy. You give them information. Sometimes it takes a day for them to confirm the chair itself.
You also have to make sure that you do this at least a week or two in advance.
Yeah, you're going to want to do it more than that, trust me. You're going to do it about a month in advance. And the closer you get to the cruise, the more difficult it becomes because they may not be able to find the chair or deliver to the cruise based on the cruise's rules and regulations. You're looking about $300 for a week to rent one of these chairs. It depends on where you're staying and where you're sailing out of, and there might be different pricing, but that's what we're finding, about $300 for a 7-night cruise. And
however, if you need it and it helps you sleep, it's worth every penny.
Really great is they leave it in the stateroom. So usually it's there before your stateroom is available for you to go into. There have been occasions when we haven't had it, but just going to lunch and coming back, it's been present. And then you leave it in your stateroom after you get off the cruise. You do nothing else, and they come and get it and pick it up. And it's all very simple, easy squeezy. I've been impressed with the fact that it seems like every time we get one, it's a new chair. It's like a brand new chair. So we're really excited about that. Silly little thing is because we're repeat guests with them, clients of theirs, they have a loyalty program. So you rent a certain number of times and you get maybe 10 or 20 bucks off your rental. Not a reason to do it, but a nice little perk.
There are also places, if you need other medical equipment, there are places that offer that as well. Hospital beds.
Out of Port Canaveral, we suggest Brevard Medical. Mm-hmm. We found they did not do chairs anymore, but they'll provide other stuff.
Right. So if someone needs something medical, there are places that can get it to you.
All right, we wanted to make sure we shared that with you. You can certainly ask your Dreams Unlimited travel agent and for advice on how to handle that, or you can reach out to either one of us, John at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com or Kevin at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com, and we can point you in the right direction for getting a motorized lift chair or any other medical device that you might require.
Don't let this stop you from going on a cruise.
Exactly.
It's out there. Go explore.
I agree. All right. I think that'll do it. I think we covered everything we wanted to cover. Thank you, everyone at home, for listening and watching. We hope you have a great week, and we hope you have a great vacation.